Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today it is time to talk about my series goal. Every year I make a different goal regarding series because I have a problem. I like to collect series. So today we are going to talk through some numbers, how many I read this year, if I met my goal. We're going to talk about some favorites, some superlatives, and yeah, just overall have a series fiesta. So that's what we're gonna do in this video. In the meantime, while I am talking with you, let me know in the comments down below if there are any series that you have dearly loved this year, because I would love to know and potentially add some series to my list. I'm not gonna keep you hanging. We're just gonna start with the goal. If you were not around for the beginning of 2024 when I made my series goal, this year I wanted to continue 31 series. So that didn't necessarily mean continue 31 books in separate series. It was just 31 series continuations that I needed to get done. And that is because I brought 31 series into 2024. And so I am happy to announce that at this moment in time, I have continued 31 series, exactly. I will have continued 33 by the end of the year because I'm currently working on Fury of the Gods and Win in Truth, and so those are other series continuations, but I met this goal. Now, I do think I was a little bit easier on myself this year, and so my goal for next year, giving you guys a little bit of a sneak peek of my yearly goals video that will come out this week, I am going to make the goal in 2025 of continuing as many series as I start, which, knowing the numbers that I do now, that might not be as hard as I thought it was going to be, but we're going to get to the numbers in just a minute. So that's my goal for 2025 is anytime I pick up a new series, I also want to be continuing on with a series that I have ongoing. So wish me luck. So I have a few numbers I want to share with you before we move on to talking about the actual series. I'm not going to talk about a lot of numbers in this video. If you guys are looking for a stats video where I talk about genres and ratings and things like that, that will come out at the very beginning of 2025. This will just be about series. So I just have a couple of things I want to share. One of them is how many series am I bringing over into 2025? And to date, I have 39 series ongoing. So that is what I will bring with me into the new year. So I've gained about 8 books or 8 series from 2024, but I have completed some. So I've swapped some things out. Of the 39 series that I'm bringing into 2025, I am caught up on 17 of them. So that means that there are 17 series that I consider ongoing that I really can't do anything with because I'm awaiting a new release. A lot of those are series that I've started this year, but I also have some old series that I'm just waiting. For instance, Stormlight right now, I am currently reading Wind in Truth. And so because I'm currently reading that, and that's the last book that's published in that series, I just have to wait for Stormlight 6, which I'm going to be waiting a while. So that one's going to stay on my series list for quite some time. I also this year have DNF'd 12 series. When I did my series check-in in the mid-year, I told you guys of 8 series that I would be DNFing. I've decided that I have 4 more that I'm going to be DNFing, and I'll just mention them here. The first is the Shike, I think is how I pronounce it. It's been a minute since I've listened to the audio of the first book. So I don't know if it was the Shike Files or if it's just the Shike, but this is the first book in the series, and I absolutely loved The Rook. I think this was fantastic, but I think the second book in the series just went somewhere I wasn't super excited about, and it kind of lost some of the intrigue that the first book had. And so I think in my head, I'm just going to consider this a standalone and move on. I know that the third book, I've been told the third book is better than the second, but I think at this point I would have to reread it. And so at some point, if I decide to read on to the third book and finish the series, I would want to reread the first one and the second one. And I just don't want to do that right now. So I'm gonna say that this is a DNF series, even though the first one was absolutely amazing. The next 3 are all series that I don't need to continue. I might want to continue every single series that I start that I relatively enjoy the first book, but there are some that I know that I don't care to continue the storyline. So the first one, I'm sorry, Rainy, is going to be Ashes of the Sun. I know that there have been several people on BookTube this year that have just dearly loved the series. I am just not one of them. So I think I've learned that maybe this author just isn't for me, because I've now read 2 of their books. Not saying that I would never pick up from a book from them again, but I just haven't been impressed so far. I didn't enjoy the characters. I don't really care where the storyline goes, so I'm not going to continue. Next is similar lines, Isle of Gods, which is a YA fantasy, and this one I did like better than Ashes of the Sun. I did enjoy the character arcs a little bit more in this book. It was more character heavy than Ashes of the Sun, in my opinion, but I didn't like how it ended. And the further I get away from the book, the less I think about it. And so I think I just need to say goodbye to the series. I've also heard from someone who dearly loved the first book that the second book has been a little bit disappointing and even more YA than the first book, which will definitely be a problem for me. So I'm saying goodbye to this one as well. And the last one, a lot of people are probably going to be in the comments telling me that I need to continue on, but I have decided not to move forward with the Southern Reach trilogy. I read Annihilation. I rated it a 3-star. I know that you're supposed to read like the first 3 books at the very least before you judge the series, but I just don't know that I care. This is another one that I have gotten, as I've gotten further and further away, I am having to force myself to even think about continuing the series. I've talked about buddy reading this with multiple people, which normally that kind of lights a fire under my butt, but it hasn't. And I think it's time, my friends. I think that I can let go of this one and maybe search for some more weird sci-fi that I can enjoy. I also have just some rereads that I want to mention. So this year I did reread Mistborn Era 1, so I want to continue that reread in the new year. I also, into Era 2 is what I meant. And then I also started my reread of Lies of Laclamora this year. I started it in January. It took me until May, I think, to finish the first book because I was reading it on Kindle. So I would like to continue with that because I dearly loved being back with the boys. And so I would like to continue with the Dylan and Bastard series as well. In the new year, I have a couple series that I haven't started rereading yet, but I do have plans to. One of those is the Ninth Reign, or The Winnowing Flame is the series title, but I plan to reread this one with Kirsten. I've read the first and the second books and need to finish the series and read the third book, but we're going to be reading the series together so I can get all the nitty-gritty details before I get into the third book. And then the next series that I also decided to start a reread without finishing the series was the Sun Eater series, which it starts with The Empire of Silence. I absolutely love this first book. It was my favorite book in 2021. I read the second book last year and then tried to read the third book this year, and I have forgotten everything that I learned, and so I need to go back and reread the first 2 books before I continue on with the series. So this will also be a series reread that I continue in the new year to come. I also completed 8 series in 2024. This is a lot lower than my completed number for 2023, but that is because my goal was different this year. So that's why I know I need to manipulate my goal a little bit next year. I still don't know if I've done that with what I made my goal. So I might add something into my yearly goals as I ponder that the next couple of days before I record that video, because I definitely want to be finishing more series. But if I'm in the middle of longer series, I don't know that I mind them being open or ongoing. So yeah. Anyway, the 8 series that I completed, one was the Lady Trent series. I read 3 of these this year. There are 5 total in the series. Parasol Protectorate, I read 1 of them this year. Bloodsworn Saga, I'm currently in the middle of The Fury of the Gods, so I'm counting that because I'm going to finish it before December ends. Shades of Magic, I actually read this entire trilogy this year, and Fragile Threads of Power, which is like a companion series as well. I read all of those in 2024. I also read all of Gog Magog, which is just a duology, so Gog Magog and Led Luda. I finished the Moon series, which started with Moon of the Crusted Snow, and this year the Moon of the Turning Leaves was published, and so I finished that. I don't think that series is supposed to have a third book, but with the ending of Moon of the Turning Leaves, it technically could. But I'm going to say that it's done because the author hasn't said that it's going to continue. And then I read all of the Witch's Compendium this year, which was only 2 books. It's Foul Days and Monstrous Nights. And then I read the end of Starlight Shadow. So I read, actually I have that book in front of me. I read Capture the Sun, which the first book in the series is Hunt the Stars. It's a trilogy, sci-fi romance series that was very cute. And so yeah, those are the 8 series that I completed this year. Next, I have 5 superlatives. These are kind of honorable mentions of series that I've read this year that didn't make my most excited lists that I'm going to tell you guys about, or my favorites lists, but I still think that they deserve to be mentioned. My most cozy series this year was actually one that I started, but it is an older release, and that is His Majesty's Dragon, which is the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik. This was so cute, and I did not expect it to be as cozy as it is. If you haven't heard of this, you are following a ship captain who ends up taking over and taking possession of a dragon egg, and the dragon egg is getting ready to hatch. And within this kingdom, they know that there are certain things that have to happen within 24 hours of a dragon egg hatching. Otherwise, the dragon is considered feral and they can't do anything with it. It cannot help the kingdom. This is a historical fantasy, so it's set, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the time frame, but England is the one who wants the dragon, and I think England is opposing France, if I remember correctly. And so the English take possession of the dragon, but the ship's captain doesn't really know what else to do other than adapt the dragon to the means to being in English possession and to be actually having a dragon rider. And he was never intended to do that. And so you follow the dragon, whose name is Temeraire, and the ship captain and their relationship and how that works with England's military, and I just loved it. Temeraire living in his, or being able to see his perspective on why things work the way that they do, kind of the oddities of humans to dragons, was very sweet, and the relationship between the ship's captain and Temeraire is just amazing to see grow throughout the storyline. I really liked it. Next is my most unexpected, and this I didn't realize was a series until actually either this week or last week. I realized that there is a second one and it's coming out next year. I'm so excited. And that is the Delicate Dream Department Store. I mean, look at this cover. I just freaking love it. This book was such a cozy, fun, whimsical time. It's very odd. It's about a dream department store, so literally a department store that sells people dreams, and you are following a character who, I can't remember her name, but she wants to work at the Delicate Dream Department Store. She does get hired on, and it's about her finding her place at this department store, and you get to learn about all the dreams that they, the different levels of the department store indicate what type of dreams they're selling, and it's so sweet. I can't wait to be back in the department store. Next is the weirdest series that I read this year. And this isn't necessarily a good thing, but I do know that there are people out there who look for weird. So I just wanted to say this. I don't think that it's a bad thing either. That is the Gog Magog series. So Gog Magog was the first book, and then Led Luda is the second book. I do think that Gog Magog is better than Led Luda. I didn't really enjoy the ending of this series. It kind of disappointed me in the long run, but it is very unique in premise. You are following Katie, who is a plant human who is ferrying some people down the River Nisus to the city of Ledwidge. And the reason that this is dangerous is because this river is haunted by a dragon's body. And so you actually get to travel in this ship inside the ghost of the dragon's, or the ghost dragon's body. And so you get to see how all the different organs make the different cities work, which is why it's such an interesting read. It is rather crude at times, just so you guys know, but I thought it's a fun time, and I am glad that I read it, but definitely a weird read. Next, I had to put another one in that's not a great thing, which is my most disappointing series. And this is a series I talked about at the very beginning or in my mid-year check-in, that I was going to DNF unless the ratings of the third book are just absolutely phenomenal and people I know are talking about how amazing the story is. I probably will not continue with this. And that was Iron Flame. So I read this because I pre-ordered it. I read it pretty quickly after it was published. The ending of this book made me mad. I think it's emotionally manipulative. I'm not a fan. I definitely feel like I was so bored throughout the entire story. The relationship components kind of fell apart. And then at the end, I feel like we have this almost aha from the author to keep us reading. And I'm like, no, I'm done. Like maybe 25% of this book was fun for me, and the rest I just felt like was a slog. And the ending is definitely a hook to make you continue, which I know series do. Like all series have some type of cliffhanger that keep the readers wanting to continue on. So I guess I shouldn't fault it for that, but because of how emotionally charged the ending was, I really didn't like it. So I think I'm done. Next, to end the superlatives on a good note, I have the most humorous series, and that has to go to the bands. This is Kings of the Wild. The second book is Bloody Rose, and the third book is called Outlaw Empire, I think, but it's not out yet. And I thought it was going to come out next year, but I can't get confirmation on that on Goodreads, and I haven't checked NetGalley, but so I don't know. The third book will come out soon. It is named already. But this is a series where you follow a mercenary band who fights monsters. But the reason that this one in particular is so humorous is because you are following a mercenary band 20 years past their prime. And the band has broken up. The men have lost touch with one another. They are no longer in each other's lives. But one of them gets the band back together because his daughter is in really dire circumstances and he wants the band to swoop in and save her. And you get to see these men who have aged, some of them not very gracefully, having to go out and fight monsters in their old age. And I just thought it was a hoot, and their familial bond, like seeing them kind of, get the band back together, is heartwarming as well. So it's an amazing series. Next are two series that I just want to call out for my sake because I'm worried that I'm going to forget about them. These are both series that I have enjoyed, but they are series that do not stay at the forefront of my mind. But every time I look at my series spreadsheet and I'm going down, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to continue that series. And so I just feel like maybe if I put it in a video, this will be added to like my mental checklist and I will get to it. Maybe you guys will remind me. So one of them is Riverfall Chronicles, which is from the Wickwire Watch, which I read for Battle of Booktubers round 1. And I really did enjoy it. It is really complex, and so I don't want to forget all of the intricate details that were in the first book, especially because the first book doesn't really answer any questions. It's a series that you just have to continue on hoping that you're going to get the answers that you want. And so I really need to continue on. One of the reasons that I haven't picked this series up in particular is because of accessibility. My library doesn't have access to this book. And so the series as a whole, I think it has access to the first book because that's how I read it, or maybe not. Maybe I purchased it on Kindle. I'll have to look, but I definitely don't have easy access. So it is a series that I either need to just go out and buy and hope that I'm going to enjoy, or I don't have Hoopla or anything like that. So I think that's probably my only option. I could try and find it at a secondhand bookshop, but we don't have a ton of those. And finding a series that's this obscure probably isn't going to happen. So this is definitely one though I want to complete because I really did like the first one. Next is Books of the Usurper. The second book is called Ruin of Relics. The first one is Empire of Exiles, which I read this year. And this is a fantasy mystery series that was also very complex and had a really cool universe surrounding changelings and like a wall that keeps the changelings out. And you learn a whole bunch of mysterious lore about this kingdom's past and the powers that they have as well. I mean, it was very entertaining, and I don't want to forget all of the details once again. This one, I think that I haven't continued because it's in my Kindle. I do own this. It was on sale on Amazon at one point in time for like 99 cents. And I was like, yes, I will continue this series at some point in time. But a lot of times, and I know you guys are the same, or at least some of you are, things go on my Kindle and I forget about them. So I also read my Kindle books at a much slower rate. And that keeps me from reading them too, because I typically will only read one book on my Kindle at a time. So fingers crossed, year of 2025 is when I get to these two series. Now on to my most excited lists and then on to my favorites. So the first list I'm going to give you guys is my most excited to continue, and these are with series that I'm not caught up on. So they are series that I can actively be reading right now if I wanted to, because the books are published. The first one is Codex Alera. I mentioned this in a recent video. I think it was my end of Bucket Listathon wrap-up video where I talked about reading Captain's Fury, which I rated 5 stars. And that's the 4th book in the Codex Alera series. I think there are 6 books total, so I'm close to the end, and I absolutely love that book. I want to live with these characters again, and I want to hopefully pick up a book soon, because this is a series that I tend to shy away from, or the further I get away from it, the more excitement kind of dwindles for me. But when I'm in it, I love it. So while I'm excited about it, I need to pick it up. Next is the Chronicles of Rhaenyra, which is a companion series to the Rhaenyra Revelations, which is one of my favorite series from last year. It's the origin story of the 2 characters and how they met. I've loved the 2 books that I've read so far, and I just need to continue. I haven't, because the audiobooks, which I was really enjoying, have changed to the rest of the series is all dramatized audio, and I'm not sure if I'm a fan. So I think I'm going to try the 3rd using the audio, and if it's too distracting for me, I might just switch over to physical, and it's just going to take me longer to read the series. The last one on this list is The Stranger Times. I read the 2nd book this year, which was called This Charming Man, and this is a fantasy mystery series surrounding a newspaper that is investigating supernatural events, and you have to figure out if they're real. It's very fun, and it's a huge cast of characters in this little news organization. It's I love it. And so I need to continue on. I own the audiobook, and I would like to own the entire series at some point, because the covers are amazing. They have such detail in them that are important to the storyline. So if you ever pick up this series, make sure that you at least can look at a physical copy, because whoever the cover artist is deserves a standing ovation. The next list that I have for you guys is the series that I'm most excited to continue that have new releases coming out. So the first one is actually one that I continued with this year. That is The Cemeteries of Amalur, which the last book in that series right now is The Grave of Stones. The Tomb of Dragons is coming out next year, and I asked for an arc on NetGalley. Fingers crossed that I get it. This series follows Thara Kelleher, who is a witness for the dead in The Goblin Emperor. So Goblin Emperor is a standalone, but there are a whole bunch of little novellas that follow a particular character in there. He talks to the dead, and because of that, he witnesses for the dead, which means he kind of gives them their last rites, but he also can help solve murders on the rare occasion. And so you get to follow these mysteries that he goes through. And his character, I just freaking love. He's amazing, fantastic, and at the end of Grave of Stones, something really heart-wrenching happened, and I want to know how that's going to impact my love. Next, we also have the 3rd book coming out in the library trilogy. It's called The Book That Broke Her Heart, or The Book That Held Her Heart. Those are very different. I think it's The Book That Held Her Heart, if I remember correctly. But I've loved both of the books that are in this. I need to pick up the novellas, because I think there's 3 little short stories that are in this world as well that I need to get to. But I'm excited for the 3rd book in this to come out. It's such an intricate series about 2 people from different sides of an empire, and one of them is trapped in this first book. One of them is trapped in a library that he can't get out of, and you get to learn about the intricacies of the magics in the library. I mean, do I need to say more? The last series that I'll mention that has a new release coming out, I know that there are many, many more, but I just have to mention The Tainted Cup. I have been approved on NetGalley for the second book in the series, which is called A Drop of Corruption, and so I can't wait. I also am going to get my hands on an edition of the book as well. This one I annotated, and so I don't know if you guys can even see that, but it's it's lovely. Fantasy mystery series, very fun. It's a Sherlockian mystery where some important people in the Empire who help keep the Leviathans at bay. You have these seaside cities that are attacked by these gigantic monsters that come out of the oceans, and the people who build the walls to keep them out are being killed, and you get to follow why and how and who. It's very fun. One of the best genre blends that I've ever read, and so I'm excited to continue. Okay, lastly, my favorites. So I wanted to give a favorite for the series I've completed, a favorite for the series I've continued with this year, and then a favorite new series that I've started. For the favorite for the series I've completed, I actually have two because I can't decide, and I do think that this first one is probably the winner, but I had to mention the other one as well. So the first one I will mention is the Lady Trent series. I know you guys have heard me talk about this a ton, especially this year because I've read 3 of them, but this is such a good series, and I'm so glad that I have Tamriel, which I've already mentioned, to continue with as a cozy dragon read, because I am going to need one, or I do need one, because I've finished Lady Trent now at this point in time. Although I do think this series has a companion series that follows Lady Trent's granddaughter, so I will be reading that one as well. If you haven't heard me talk about this, you are following Lady Trent, who is a studier of dragons, and these are her memoirs. So each book represents a different dragon and people that she studies, and like her journeys and adventures doing that. She originally, well, and I guess throughout her entire career, is in a world that does not expect women to do the messy jobs or the dangerous jobs. And she's very much just expected to get married, sit down and shut up type of a thing. And so in the first book especially, you get to see her combat some of that. But throughout the series, you also get little bits and pieces of society expecting certain things of her and her not complying. So I dearly love this series, hence why I own all of them, and I will probably own the companion series as well. I'm very excited about continuing on with Lady Trent's family, at least. The honorary mention for favorite completed series has to be The Witch's Compendium. This one I don't think wins over Lady Trent. I think Lady Trent is probably, or is better than this series. I just had such a fun time with this, so I have to shout it from the rooftops and hope that more of you read this series. So Foul Days, Monstrous Nights. It follows a witch who lives in the town of Chernograd that is plagued by monsters, and at the very beginning of the story, she gambles away her shadow, which is where witches keep their power, and you have to follow her trying to get it back because she wants to keep her town safe from these monsters. Oh, it's just amazing learning about all the monsters, how to live and survive these monster attacks, and following the story of her getting her shadow back. You also have a detective that comes in. It's just, I thought it was a lot of fun. My favorite continuation is The Grief of Stones, which I've already told you about. I can't wait to continue this with the Tomb of Dragons next year, and I need to go back. Reading this particular book, so this is the only book in the series that I've given 5 stars. Goblin Emperor, which like I said is a standalone, I gave 4 stars, I think. That was before I was doing half-star ratings. And then Witness for the Dead I gave 4.5 stars, and then this one I gave 5 stars. And I think if I went back and reread Goblin Emperor, and if I reread Witness for the Dead, I think I would give both of them 5 stars just because of how much I love the characters at this point in time. So this is my favorite continuation. And lastly, we have my favorite new series, and I realized as I was pulling this off my bookshelf that I might be cheating with this one because this is a companion series to a series that I've already started, or that I've already completed as well. But I don't care. I'm counting it because it's a separate series. and that's The Fragile Threads of Power. This is the companion series to Darker Shades of Magic, which is up here, the trilogy that I finished this year. But this is a different series, and I absolutely loved this book. This series, if it continues on the way that this book, if it keeps the momentum of this book, it could be one of my favorite series of all time. It was absolutely fantastic. And I can't tell you much about the plot because it does have some of the characters in the original set in it, and even me talking about those characters still being here are going to be spoilers for you. So I will say the new character was actually my favorite part of the storyline. You follow a girl who works in a magical fix-it shop. It's kind of the best thing I can describe it as. And she has a power where she can literally see the threads of power. And this is not a skill that a lot of people have. It's very rare. And I think that's all I want to tell you. She gets wrapped up in some kingdom politics because of this power of hers. And seeing that mixed with some of the characters from the old series and how the kingdom dynamics have gotten bigger, it was just amazing. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I wanted to reread it as soon as I finished it. Yes. Those are some of the series that I've read this year that I've just dearly loved. I hope you were able to find something that intrigues you that maybe you will pick up in the new year. Don't forget to comment down below any series that you have read this year that you just dearly loved, because I would love to add to my list. You know that I love collecting series. If you are not feeling chatty, let's leave something to indicate thread. So I don't know if there's like a little bobbin of thread, or if there's like sewing scissors, something like that in the comments down below. Just let me know that you guys are here. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!